Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Josh is Severe Weather. I'm a meteorologist in the Raleigh area. I appreciate you joining me here today. We're going to get straight to it. Big time storm heading through the eastern states. We have severe weather and high winds affecting millions of Americans and Canadians as well, for that matter. And then very cold air following it, but just for a few days. And unfortunately, this pattern that we are now in this week is set to repeat itself this month of March. We're going to see a lot of dips, a lot of climbs, kind of a roller coaster ride here, but it is going to include quite a bit of severe weather, especially in the southern United States, moving to the eastern seaboard here as we get through the month of March. And there's a wintry side as well, as we are going to deal with consistently quite a bit of snow in areas that aren't uncommonly used to it this time of the year. So I appreciate you joining me. Also, I'm going to talk about a tropical cyclone that'll be impacting Queensland, Australia here in the coming days. I'm going to share my screens with you here as we walk through this. And first off, I do want to take you to Tropical Tidbits and show you our water vapor image. And you can see here where our storm system is centered. Pretty powerful upper level feature here. A negatively tilted trough that is going to move northeastward, sending all of this moisture up the eastern seaboard. There's a conveyor belt of cold that follows it. Now, as this portion of the trough swings northeastward, in the wake of this first line of storms, we are going to see a secondary area to keep an eye on here later today and into the night tonight. I'm not the best artist in the world, so I apologize for that. But we do want to take a look at temperatures, and you can see where our front is stacked up here over the eastern portion of the country. And that mild air is making its way all the way up into the Lake Michigan area. We're up to 50 degrees, places like Muskegon, Michigan, Grand Rapids, and Kalamazoo. You can see mild temperatures spreading northward into the Carolinas, and this is the area we're going to be watching this afternoon, really even late this morning, but into the afternoon as this front advances northward here. But there's definitely a cold side of this. This is not extreme cold, but definitely chillier than it's been, as we see 20s and 30s dropping down into Oklahoma and Kansas over the coming days. Let's take a look here at the hazards map here. It's very colorful, and that is not a good thing. I'm sorry to say that. It may look pretty, but it is not. First thing I want to draw your attention to are the wind advisories and warnings that we have here. Almost half the country has high winds that we're dealing with, and the areas in here in particular are dealing with that most of that wind. But we also have all kinds of winter storm challenges that we're going to be dealing with here with our first storm. There's another storm behind it. So here's number 2, here's number 1. And we're going to kind of break down what those look like. And with the severe weather, we are seeing that continuing in the Carolinas, and eventually that's going to move up the coast here over the coming days. Here's a look at the wintry side of this. I do want to point out that we do have blizzard warnings in effect here. Primarily this area first, but later on we're going to see blizzard conditions spreading onto the UP of Michigan. And we do have winter weather advisories back across Missouri, but also across the central Appalachians as this cold air returns behind our storm later today and especially tonight. Things are going to get nasty here pretty quickly. We do have our next storm system affecting areas from California to Wyoming and the western Dakotas, and winter storm warnings in pink here across Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, and California. And that is our next storm system that is going to spread eastward here. Here's a look at what we've had to deal with over the last 24 hours. Obviously, lots of snow on the cold side of this system. Tornado reports in Oklahoma earlier yesterday in places like Okmulgee County. We also saw tornadoes confirmed in the Shreveport area in Caddo Parish. And we also have some tornadoes being investigated in parts of central Louisiana, east central Texas, Rapides and Vernon Parish, as well as Mississippi yesterday afternoon in Lawrence and Columbia counties. And Wayne County as well, and quite a bit of wind damage across the Gulf states as well. Fortunately, portions of Arkansas and the Delta region and the mid-Mississippi Valley, which were originally highlighted to have some severe weather, kind of did miss out on the worst of it. What happened was cloud cover kind of held things at check. But unfortunately, as this trough swings northeastward here, we are going to see things picking up here over the coming hours. Here is a look at the Storm Prediction Center's outlook, and you can see an enhanced risk from about Beaufort and Hilton Head and Bluffton in South Carolina, stretching up through Greensboro and all the way into Southeast Virginia, including the RVA area, and a slight risk for severe weather across portions of Pennsylvania, Eastern Ohio, West Virginia, and then stretching down into Northeastern Florida. I know that's cut off on the map. A lot of this is going to be severe wind. In fact, I'll show this to you, and I'm not going to call it good news, but earlier the forecasts actually had a hatched area of hurricane force winds in here. The area that was hatched was basically right about here for 74-mile-per-hour winds. That has been taken out of the forecast, but that does not reduce the risk of potential severe weather. 30% or higher chance across this area highlighted in red here. And you can see as well that we do have a tornado risk as well. We're not talking strong tornadoes, but certainly a few tornadoes are possible. And I think the area that we need to be most concerned with is going to be just east of Raleigh, just south of Richmond, and over to about Norfolk and Chesapeake, Virginia. That's the area that I am most concerned with as we get into the afternoon. We do have a tornado watch in effect across the Carolinas and stretching to the Virginia border. We do have severe thunderstorm warnings in blue. If you take a look at what's to come here, we are likely going to see another watch issued here, 60% chance across southern Virginia, as we are going to see some heating and some moisture transport into southern Virginia, and what's called a QLCS. What that stands for is quasi-linear convective system, basically a squall line that's not quite straight, but one that bows out and brings us these damaging winds. With this, we're likely going to see wind gusts around 60, maybe 70 miles per hour, and the potential for an EF0 or EF1 tornado as we get later into this morning. Here is a look at our NAM model to show you kind of where our storm is. 980 millibar low pressure over northern Illinois. That is a very powerful system. That system is going to slowly move northeastward here. And on the warm side, you were going to see lines of storms moving through here. Not a whole lot of lightning, but certainly some across northern Florida, southeastern Georgia, eastern South Carolina, and then just strong winds. And as the day wears on, we're actually going to see things getting a little bit feistier here in eastern North Carolina. This is about 4 o'clock Eastern time. And you see this line of storms moves towards the coastal sections here. And we also see another line that breaks out here across portions of Pennsylvania and Ohio. And there's a bit of hail threat with this and some damaging wind threat. Not that much of a tornado threat, but certainly something we need to watch. And then you see as the cold wraps in behind this system, we're going to see everything change over to snow by the afternoon, evening, especially here in Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So we've got our front, which is going to be positioned right about here, maybe a secondary front, if you want to call it that, right about here. And then the cold just blasts in right behind the storm system, whereas it turns warmer and wetter and windier across New England here at 2Z, which is about 8, 9 o'clock Eastern time. So that is a look at the eastern U.S. Tomorrow, we're going to see it dry out quite a bit here in the east in the morning. Still some wraparound snow with it. And then we turn our focus on the western and central United States as we get into the end of this week. Here's a look at the upper level pattern, and you can see why things are getting nasty here. Very strong trough swinging through. Oops, sorry about that. I love to drag and drop, but it doesn't always work well. But tonight we are going to see this system moving offshore. Another system, though, moves in, and this one is going to take a different track. It's a southern track. And basically, models were showing these two, kind of this northern branch feature right here and southern branch feature here, trying to phase in here and produce wintry weather. They're no longer indicating that's going to be the case here. As we move this into the weekend, you can see there's two distinct systems, so they don't really link up. So the winter storm threat's pretty minimal once this system moves into the southern United States Friday night into Saturday. But that's okay. We are going to warm right back up. We're going to go right back into an active storm track here later next week. You can see our low-level jet picks up again here. The high winds pick up again. This is Friday into Saturday morning. And we could see yet another repeat of what we just had to deal with yesterday here by the 14th and 15th. So really only a 9 or 10-day break that we can catch our breath before things get busy. And unfortunately, that's not it. You can see things are taking that southern route and then tracking northeast again the following week. Here's a look at our tornado ingredients, and they're not super high today. We're not talking strong tornadoes, but we do have a tornado threat. It's kind of limited. You can see primarily across the eastern Carolinas here this afternoon. I am going to take you northward and show you the mid-Atlantic here. You know what? I wasn't even showing that tab, so let's come back to the southeast. Sorry about that. I was sharing my wrong screen. Rookie mistake here, I guess. But this is Florida. You can see there's a minimal tornado risk this afternoon, and then most of it is going to be offshore. So this is not looking as bad as yesterday did in Louisiana and East Texas and Oklahoma, but it is still something we need to be watching. Now, in the mid-Atlantic region, we are not completely done with this severe threat for tornadoes. You can see there is an enhanced risk here. Now, it's not going to be a huge outbreak of tornadoes. The instability is not great, but there could be a few quick spin ups here with this line that comes through Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina here. I'll take this back just a bit and then kind of scoop things forward for you to see. So by evening, I think we're probably done with the tornado threat, but it's primarily going to be this afternoon across the eastern Carolinas, eastern Virginia, maybe even up towards the D.C. area and across western portions of Pennsylvania. Here's a look at state by state what the radar is going to look like or could look like from the NAM model. You can see showers and storms through Florida. Some of these could be heavy. We could see some lightning. We're not talking extreme winds at this point, but certainly something to watch. Then it falls apart as it gets south of Interstate 4 this evening and moves off the coast here by tomorrow. Taking a look into Georgia and South Carolina, this is where things have been rough this morning. I do think we could see some severe weather over the eastern Carolinas after lunchtime, but primarily it's going to be a wind threat here at this point. Not really a tornado threat, but one that we don't want to dismiss completely. And then we'll see scattered showers here left over behind our main line, and then much cooler weather here. Could see some snow flurries up in the mountains here late this afternoon into the overnight hours. Tomorrow should be a dry and cooler day. Here's a look at North Carolina and Virginia. This is where I'm most concerned about severe weather breaking out here this afternoon. And you can kind of see this about 3 o'clock this afternoon. The area that I would highlight for our best severe weather threat is going to be in here. Greenville, Rocky Mount, Wilson, up to Roanoke Rapids, Halifax County, maybe Elizabeth City, areas between Richmond and Virginia Beach, South Hill, Emporia, all these areas under the gun during this afternoon and starting early in the afternoon. Now, the good news is that as schools are being let out, areas west of 95 should be in better shape for those buses to run. It will be windy, but we're not expecting this to be ongoing into the late afternoon. The second wave that comes through here just doesn't pack the punch that the first wave packs. As I take you farther northward here into the mid-Atlantic region, you're going to be able to see here kind of what unfolds this afternoon and evening. And there will be heavy rain. There could be a few lightning strikes here and certainly strong winds mid to late afternoon around D.C., Baltimore, and then late in the day around Philly, Delaware, Eastern Virginia, and Maryland, and South Jersey. This next line is probably going to fade very quickly after dark as it moves through central Maryland and central Pennsylvania. I do want to take you to Ohio here as well, just kind of showing you what may pop up here this afternoon. It's going to be very scattered and isolated in nature, but we certainly could see some brief hail and strong winds around places like Youngstown and Wheeling, West Virginia, and eventually Pittsburgh and Meadville and those sections of western PA, maybe Clarion as well. Looking into Pennsylvania here, you're going to see rain moving away this afternoon, then maybe a squall line that tries to make it through places like Altoona and Windber and State College and Clearfield here towards the end of the afternoon, and then that fades some as it moves eastward. There could still be strong wind here. In fact, I would be concerned about that if you're traveling Interstate 81 here this evening, but it's going to be very short-lived before this moves through. Looking at New England here, we are going to see some rough weather as well tonight. Just kind of sharing with you here. Here's our squall line here at about 8, 9 o'clock tonight, moving through the I-81 corridor. Heavy rain in advance of it around New York City, Long Island, eastern parts of Jersey, and eventually some heavy rain across New England. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of severe weather by the time this makes its way tonight up into New England. There could certainly be gusty wind with it, but aside from that, I don't think we're talking major severe weather. But high winds are certainly going to be something we need to watch this morning across Iowa, Missouri, and Wisconsin, and then picking up this afternoon across the mid-Atlantic region here. Definitely a high wind threat. This is 7 o'clock Eastern, and you can see here where winds are going to be ramping up pretty quickly. Hate when that happens. All right, no more drawing today. I'm like just scribbling all over the place here, but Long Island, we're looking at 60-mile-an-hour gusts here this evening. Southeastern New England, 50 to 60, maybe 70 on the islands, eastern Maine, and eventually Nova Scotia tomorrow morning. We do have this high wind threat. So a lot of folks are at risk of losing power here today into tonight. And we are going to have high winds as well across the western Carolinas in the mountain areas here later this afternoon and especially tonight, and even continuing into tomorrow morning. There's potential to see gusts in places of like Avery and Mitchell counties that could get in excessive amounts of over 75 miles per hour. On the cold side here, we do have snow potential. It could get over a foot to maybe as much as 2 feet around Lake Superior. The high snowfall amounts aren't the issue. It's the visibility and the dangerous travel on the cold side of this across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. We're only going to see a couple inches of snow, but enough to cause very dangerous visibility. Now, as this system heads east, we'll see a few inches in the mountains. And then here comes our next system Friday into early Saturday. And there's going to be a zone of 2 to 4 inches of snow that stretches from Colorado on eastward here into Iowa. I wanted to take you back to the NAM model and show you the western states here real quick, as we do have our storm system that is going to spread out from the west coast eastward, and it will dump quite a bit of snow in the ski areas here this afternoon and tonight over California, Nevada, Utah, and then overnight in Wyoming and Montana. This storm system isn't going to be quite as strong as the last one. It's taking a farther south route. You can see, though, it's going to get cold and snowy here by tomorrow night and Friday morning over Nebraska, over Iowa, northern Kansas, and northern Missouri. But I don't think we're talking an all-out blizzard this time, just a disruptive storm at this point. In California, we're going to see some heavy rain moving into SoCal here, especially tomorrow. And believe it or not, the deserts of California and Arizona have a chance at some rain early in the day on Friday, with heavier snow in places like Flagstaff and around the Rim Country during the day Friday. So much needed rain is coming to southern Arizona, some heavier snow in the higher elevations around Rim Country and Flagstaff in the coming days. As we take a look at the future of our next couple of weeks, yes, we're going to have some severe weather today, but as we head into next week, the threat continues. It picks back up late next week across Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, then spreading eastward towards the weekend in some of the same spots that just got hit. And again, the pattern repeats itself as we get to about the 20th of March. We see more severe weather across the exact same areas, the deep south, Oklahoma, parts of Tornado Alley. So things are going to get busy once again. And as we look ahead on the European model and we see our next storm system, yes, there's going to be a little bit of heavy rain down south. Yes, there could be some snow in New Mexico and Texas, but this really isn't going to be a massive storm system. The one after it, though, take a look at this. The Bay Area has a strong storm moving onshore here in about a week. And as that moves on to the plains, we do have the threat for some severe weather across the eastern United States. The one behind it, though, has more potential. The European already has this thing cranking up to what would be equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane with 977 millibars. Now, this could certainly change, and I expect that it probably will. But you can see that we definitely have the threat for some tornado warnings and extreme wind, again, in the same areas that just had to deal with this yesterday by the time we get to Friday and Saturday of next week. And, oh, by the way, there's going to be another one behind it here around the 19th and 20th. So that is it for the U.S. I do want to share what's going on here in the tropics across the land down under here. We do have Cyclone Alfred. It is going to weaken some, but coming close to Brisbane, it looks like. The Gold Coast was originally in the original track of this. It has shifted north somewhat. But this storm system right now does not look like it's super well organized. If you look here at this latest satellite image on Tropical Tidbits, you can see where our cyclone is centered. And the core is actually here kind of doing a loop, but all the heavy, intense storms are off to the south and east. Brisbane's over here. So right now, we're not necessarily getting crushed with anything, but as time wears on, this storm is expected to kind of loop back towards the coast and affecting the Gold Coast and areas such as Brisbane, and especially to the north of Brisbane. And if we take a look here at the models, they are all indicating this will eventually make a move back to the west. It will weaken some, but this is an area that doesn't typically get hit with hurricanes too often, or cyclones as we call them. And the latest HWRF model shows this system does try to weaken, but produces some rough wind offshore, 100 kilometers per hour, which would be about 60 miles per hour. Eventually, it's going to make landfall here probably Friday afternoon and Friday night north of Brisbane, and then it's going to putter around for a few days and eventually weaken. This could produce quite a bit of rain with it, though, over the coming days. You can see here bands of showers moving onshore here, hitting Brisbane, hitting Gold Coast, and eventually the system has the potential to kind of putter out, if you want to call it that, or kind of spin itself out here by Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. So still some challenges with this forecast, but I'm going to take a closer look at it in the coming days. But we're going to wrap things up here as we got to get to work. But I appreciate everybody joining me here. If you have not subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so. I'll keep you updated on any new watches and warnings that come out here as I'm able to. But as always, I thank you for your time, and I give all the honor and glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who even just gives me this platform to share everything with you all. And just know that I am praying for folks that are in the path of these storms. We really cannot stop the storms, but we can turn to God and allow Him to fight the battles for us that we face every day. And I do truly believe in the power of prayer, and that these prayers are going to be answered. That doesn't mean things are going to be easy. It doesn't mean we're going to avoid things. It certainly means, though, that we can love each other the way that God has loved us through His Son, Jesus Christ. If you do need me to pray for anything, please don't be bashful. Feel free to share any prayer requests you have. I will spend time in prayer for you here as things quiet down, because I truly believe that that matters and that makes a difference. So I thank you all for joining me on this Wednesday, and I plan on being back here soon. Have a wonderful day.